Well done, I bet you didn't think you'd have 2 songs by now. We're now going to add in another chord. Once again, an incredibly popular chord used in tons of songs, and that chord is an A. Now, with my experience of being a guitar teacher the last 12 years, I've taught A in many different ways, and you will see A taught in a few different ways online. Perhaps the most common way of seeing A taught is this, with index, middle and ring. You may also see this. But the way that I have found helping beginners, people that go on to play guitar and just it being part of their life forever, is doing A this way. It's a little harder on the fingers at first because you're using weaker fingers, but even though you are a beginner, all fingers feel weak right now, so why not start building the muscle up on the fingers that are the weakest, namely the little finger and the ring finger. These are the ones that feel the strangest when you use them. So I'm going to show you A, my way of doing A. I'll also show you another way if you're finding that really too difficult, but if it all feels too difficult, then definitely do this way. Take your little finger and press it down as best you can on its fingertip. You see I'm doing this with my joint, trying not to wobble, on fret 2 on the B string. Eddie 8 Dynamite, goodbye. Try to keep it close to this fret marker here, of fret marker 3. With your ring finger, put it on top of your pinky finger if you can. If not, if you need to do this, that's okay. But on fret 2 on the G string, on the string above. And finally, with your middle finger, put it on fret 2 on the D string. You see they're all squeezed in together, and it's this idea of no daylight and them all stacking on top of themselves that I really want you to look at. Even if you need to take your other hand and sort of pull them together in a bunch, that's fine, but just make sure that they all are fitting in between the gap of the frets. This is the reason why I prefer this way of doing it than this way, because it's much harder to get all those fingers in the frets, and if you touch a fret marker you get this sound rather than that ringing sound. So pinky, ring and middle. The chord box is on screen to show you how I do it, and that is your A chord, and for A you strum the bottom 5 strings. Okay, so for the E chord it was all 6, and for the A it's bottom 5. Now when we get into strumming, I don't want you to obsess too much about what strings you're strumming for each chord. It's more important that your chord changes are good. So this is your A. The other way that I recommend of A, well, if you're finding this too hard, is you go index, middle and ring. But I personally don't think that's as good. I think this is the way forwards. Right, now you have an A. We're going to strum it and we're going to change from A to E. Now here's some tips on changing from A to E. You don't want to be sort of lifting up everything and starting again, going index, middle, ring from the E. You want to think, okay, how can I make this change without moving too much? So lift up your little finger from your A and take this little wedge of middle and ring that are down on fret 2 on the D and G and just move them up a set of strings, preferably not doing this and then doing that, but just moving that shape up if you can. If you can't, it doesn't matter, but just doing a small movement so you're on 2 on the A and 2 on the D. And then the index that's spare, because we're doing A this way, you can just put that down on fret 1. Consequently, when we go back to A, it's the same process. You lift up the index, you take this little wedge of middle and ring and just move them down a set and then stick the little finger down. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on an A, we're going to strum it 4 times. I'm then going to give you what's known as a rest period of 4 clicks of the metronome to make your E chord. Then we're going to strum E 4 times. And then we're going to go from E back to A. It must be stressed that as I'm doing this, if you feel you can't get to that E or change chord in time, no worries. But in my experience, if you've been playing your E chord a lot, going from A to E should be okay. E back to A, all right, that might take you longer. So we're going to go at 60 BPM on the metronome. Here's our A. Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Then make an E chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. E. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now make an A chord again. Move these down. 3, 4. And A. 2, 3, give yourself a count of 4, 3, 4, E. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on and so forth. That's a great little practice, giving yourself 4 counts on the metronome to make your next chord. If that gets too easy, then give yourself just 3 counts on the metronome. Give yourself just 2 counts, just 1 count, and eventually no counts at all. How long will that take you? How long is a piece of string? It depends how much you practice, but if you're playing daily and practicing at that, I would estimate 2 to 3 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, E. 1, 2, 3, 4, A. 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. You need to get these chords under your fingers so that your muscles just react to them. That will take time and practice. You're going to need these chords forever, so it's important that you learn them off by heart. Now, in the next video, I answer a few of the most common questions about chord changing and how difficult it can be. So let's have a look at that.